Hello, Nick. How are you? You okay?
Yeah, I'm really good, Holly. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. So first of all, thanks ever so much for joining us on today's Impact Room. So I suppose let's get down to the first question. So what's your favourite brand, Nick, and why is that?
Yeah, cool. So this one is a little bit out there. People may know about it, but it's a company called Malin and Getz. I don't know if
Okay,
you've heard of them,
I
but
haven't, no.
you may spot them in hotels as you sort of go start traveling and stuff. But basically, they're a gender neutral body product company. Basically, they
Okay,
were created by a gay couple in New York, and their products are completely unisex. They're designed for anybody, any skin type. Really, really cool. And basically, they've sort of created their brand around the diversity of New York, where they're from. Um,
amazing. I feel like
zero.
I need to try
They're
it.
so good, so good. I'll send you a link after this. But
Absolutely.
completely natural products, animal free, zero testing, and they're just brilliant. Absolutely amazing products. They're not the cheapest, but great company, great ethos, really good products as well. It's really hard to find decent, yeah, sort of body products and moisturizers and that kind of thing that are not only good for the environment but designed for anybody. So really, really love kind of what they're about.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. And it's nice to have a brand that are living and breathing that ethos as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's just, yeah, super cool, and kind of their backstory and kind of, yeah, how they've gone from, being in New York and taking that kind of diverse set of, yeah, people that live there into a product, and then, launching that worldwide is just brilliant. So yeah, go and check them out. Really, really good.
A- And getting it into hotels and stuff as well.
Yeah, that's
So
where I came across it. I was like, what's this? Never heard of it before. And then that's how they get you, isn't it?
absolutely. So how about sort of your elevator pitch then? How would you describe yourself in a sentence or two?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm kind of a authentic senior operations leader. I've got 18 years experience in the utilities industry, passionate about good leadership and all things diversity, equality and inclusion, which is why we're here today.
Mm,
Advocate of women's sport, all women's sport, that absolutely needs to be raised up onto a platform where it deserves to be, but particularly women's football. Um, and generally quite an optimist that we're going to get the world in a better place.
well, I hope so. And fingers crossed it won't take 135 years.
No.
So at the moment and right now, where do you see sort of the biggest opportunity across diversity and inclusion, Nick?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's about kind of really focusing and refining, I guess, is probably the right word. The kind of remote hybrid working situation from the past couple of years. I think a
Hmm.
lot of businesses, as you all know, Holly, are sort of transitioning into this kind of space where it may be hybrid if it was fully remote, or thinking about going back to the office if they've not been back. And I think there's a real sort of area there around well-being and diversity and inclusion within that hybrid environment that we need to,
Mm,
we've got policies from a sort of HR point of view that kind of support that hybrid working, and that people are brought into this way of working, but we now need to refine that and make sure we're supporting that. And I think there's a big piece, as you'll probably know, about presenteeism issues and people,
yeah.
they may be in the office, but is that creating value? Are they capable? They absolutely are, because they've been working in organisations like this for years. We've got to remember that. And I think sort of a personal one is around sort of women in business, particularly with COVID. A lot more women were furloughed than men, and particularly women from sort of ethnic and diverse groups were especially hard impacted.
Yeah.
And along with that, as you'll know, sort of unpaid care responsibilities disproportionately affect women over lockdown, reducing reducing their pay, work adjustments, that kind of thing. It all has an impact, and we need to make sure that there's equitable access to sort of care, leave policies, practices, because we need to support women in the workplace and sort of address that imbalance, basically.
Mm. And it's
As
even
we've
more ongoing, isn't it, since because you've got the repercussions of COVID guidelines in childcare settings and things at the moment. I myself have already literally 3 or 4 weeks into needing it, and I've already come across that hurdle with
just
my son's own
continued.
childcare.
The
Yeah.
problem is just continues on. And as we were saying before we sort of started, the gender pay gap to close that is now increased, from I think it was 99.5 years to 135.6.
Mm.
That's too much. We need to start making sure we can start to close that gap, start to support our women in the workplaces better. Yeah, that for me is a big one, because that impact is too great, and we need to start working on that. And I think, you know, if organisations can support their people, first and foremost, whatever they choose, be that hybrid, remote, whatever it is, but really drill down and start to support the women in their organisations who, you know, have significantly been impacted more than anybody else, I think is where I would say start. There's a lot more to it than that, but they would be probably my biggest opportunity areas, I guess.
Okay, so if you were looking to sort of give a piece of advice to somebody wanting to progress their EDI agenda right now, what would that look like, do you think?
I think it's get on with it. You know, we've got to get on with this stuff. It's not going away, and it's becoming more and more prevalent, and people are more and more, you know, aware of diversity, you know, equality and inclusion, particularly in business cases. But I think there's a real need that it has to be done well, and I think organisation, and particularly senior leaders, need to grasp why they're doing something and worry about what they're going to do for the, you know, for the right reason afterwards. As we were just sort of talking before we came on, you know, it's okay doing something, but do you know the reason why you're doing that and what the sort of outcome of that's going to be? You know, the business case is clear for, you know, putting DE&I in organisations. You know, it's going to bring better financial returns. You're going to outperform other industry, you know, leaders that are in the same space as you. Better decision making. You know, that bit is undeniable. That's all there, and there's facts and research that back that up. But I think, yeah, there's got to be a real understanding as to why you're doing this. And I think, you know, doing your research, understanding, educating. I was talking to one of my friends who's quite high up in the Air Force about diversity and inclusion, and one of the things that she said to me is people need to sort of go out and understand from people's viewpoints and people's experiences, and she called it respectful curiosity. Go in,
I
ask.
like that.
I loved it. I've got it. I've got it in my notes. It's like I'm taking that. I'm stealing it. I'll quote you.
Absolutely.
But you know, I'm absolutely taking that one. And you know, it's about going to speak to real people and start learning from people within your organisation. You know, don't. Yeah, just understand what it is you're trying to do and who you're trying to help within that organisation. And I think, you know, don't half-ass it. You know, make sure you're doing the right things. You're active about it. You know, I think we often worry about stuff in this space, and I think we just need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And sometimes it's going to be that, because you're going to be asking questions, you're going to be, you know, digging into sort of topics and areas that aren't particularly comfortable to everybody,
And
but don't
sometimes are
worry.
very personal.
Absolutely. And it's like, don't worry about that so much. You're doing it for the right reasons, and you know, like I said, that sort of respectful curiosity, you're going to get the answers you need. So yeah, quite a bit in there. Probably a lot more than one bit of advice, but
no, but importantly, it's about taking action as well, isn't it? Once you've decided that it is something that you're interested in and that you want to promote internally within the business, it's about making sure that you do something about it rather than just saying that you're going to do something about it eventually, or using it as a buzzword as well.
absolutely. And I think, you know, again, when you're sort of going out to the business and communicating that, making sure that, you know, you're doing that in different ways and in different formats for those different learning styles, and, you know, different kind of, you know, if you've got neurodiverse people within the organization, they may want things presented in a different way. You know, not everyone wants the same thing. And I think, you know, if we can be aware of that when we're delivering that message, we're not going to alienate anybody.
No.
Actually, from a leadership point of view, you're going to reach more people, you're going to get better results and a better impact. But yeah, I think if you're going to do it, make sure you do it properly, and yeah, you don't just do it because it's going to tick a box.
Absolutely. So we've had many conversations about leadership and driving effective change. So what do you think makes a good leader?
I think for me, I've always kind of led from a people first philosophy. It sounds really basic, and I think sometimes taking things back to the basics is best. I think, you know, putting the needs of your people first and allowing them to focus on, you know, themselves in their best work, I think you're going to always get the best out of them. And particularly when we sort of look back at the diversity and inclusion space, building that trust and confidence, you know, within that team gives the team the sort of conditions that they can thrive and make sure they have that psychological safety, which then builds on that inclusion piece.
Absolutely.
I think trusting people as well is a big one, you know, and again, sort of going back to the hybrid working, remote working thing, you've trusted your organisation to work that way for 2.5 years. That isn't going to change because, you know, you want them back, you know, you want your teams back in the office. It's, you know, if they've been doing the job well enough remotely, why do you need people back in the office? You know, give those people that autonomy, responsibility, accountability that you've given them before to get the job done. Don't suddenly take that away. We need to be making our teams feel valued. And again, culturally, that presents its own problems with, you know, working remote, hybrid. How does all that interplay? And that also impacts in this space as well.
Absolutely, but some people are much more productive working independently at home, and some roles don't need that collaboration as much as others do. So there's no harm, surely.
Absolutely, it's about what's finding best for, you know, best for your people, and, you know, letting your people, you know, to some degree drive that sort of conversation. You know, they know what's best for them, and, you know, if there's a business need, absolutely make it, but listen to your people. And I think for me as well, you know, kind of just showing you're human as a leader. It's important to show that human side, you know, explain when you've made a mistake or something's not gone well. Again, building that sort of trust and becoming more approachable and increasing that psychological safety, because I think that's really important, particularly as a senior leader, to go, hey, I messed up.
Yeah.
This is what I've done. And I think, you know, having that sort of personal sort of time with your team and getting to know your team, it seems really simple, trivial stuff, but actually they will feel safe. You will get the best out of them. And actually, if they do want to come and chat to you, they know you can. You're not just somebody that's, you know, locked away behind a door or, you know, unapproachable. I think having anybody within your teams or your organisation being able to contact you is a great thing. And I don't know why, as leaders, we would not want to be approachable. It's absolutely what it's all about to me. And I guess having a sense of humor as well, because this stuff is not easy and it's not light.
No.
So
And I think on the other hand, it's also looking at innovation and ideas, and people having the courage and the relationship as well to be able to come to the leadership team and say, do you know what, I've had this brilliant idea. And
absolutely. I mean, we've got to listen to our people. You know, ultimately they're the ones that are doing the work day in, day out. They know what's going on in the organization much better than anybody else. And I think a lot of organizations don't listen to that, and then they end up tripping themselves up. Let's actually listen to your people, let them try, you know, stuff, let them fail in a safe space. So again, you know, they feel safe, they feel that, well, actually that didn't go so well last time, but I know if I get another idea, I can go to Nick or Holly or whoever and go,
yeah,
I'm going to give this another go. Is that okay? Absolutely,
yeah,
go and do it.
absolutely. So we've previously sort of discussed that there's often quite a lot of struggles that come with diversity and inclusion in leadership teams,
Yes.
particularly in our industry in the utilities sector. So how have you managed to combat that, Nick?
Yeah, I think I've been quite lucky. I've worked with a couple of organizations with sort of female founders and CEOs throughout my career, and I think being able to see people, you know, particularly females in those positions, I think because I can see that, I know it's reality, and I know, you know, when I was working up my sort of career, that was something that I was able to achieve because I
Yeah,
could see it. And I think that's critically important, that if we can see it, we can beat it. If we can't see it, then, you know, particularly people that are starting out in their career are never going to know that they can become a female CEO because they can't see a female CEO.
seeing is believing.
Exactly. And I think that's helped. But that being said, you know, having been on senior leadership teams before and you're the only female, it can be particularly isolating. It doesn't feel very diverse or inclusive at all. And that can be quite tricky. And I think part of my stubborn nature has helped me with that. And I think, you know, being in those positions and being able to sort of be involved in the sort of diversity and inclusion working groups that I've been on before to try and change that within organisations has kind of spurred me on. But what it can do is it can do the opposite to people and go, well, you know, I don't recognise anyone here, I don't see anyone here, I don't belong here. And actually we're losing too many people that way. And that's what we've got to try and stop. I think, you know, as sort of directors of organisations need to look at their SLTs and see who is sat around them, who is sat on their leadership teams, And as we were saying before the call, start questioning, well, who's around the table with me and what's the impact of that? We just need to drive that more inclusive behaviour, particularly at a senior leadership level. I think it's tricky and it's tough, but I think part of it is just being stubborn and sticking to your guns and going, do you know what, we can do this. We are females in leadership, or, we're from diverse backgrounds, absolutely, let's keep going. I think we need to sort of utilize the movement that we're on rather than just kind of sticking with the status quo, because that's going to get us absolutely nowhere.
Absolutely. Thank you. So looking back at your career so far, where do you think your biggest break's been, and who do you think you have to thank for that?
Yeah, I think it was my previous director at Good Energy. He kind of spotted something within me, and again, this sort of goes back to that supportive, sort of trusting environment that I didn't necessarily see within myself, and he was the director that kind of gave me the opportunity to sort of step up into a sort of senior leadership role and kind of really start that kind of leadership path of my career. And I think what was very good about him is that he got the best out of me while supporting me in those sort of development areas. Again, imposter syndrome and all of that good stuff, which again, females will struggle with more. It's, he allowed me the space and the safe zone to be able to work through that stuff whilst trusting me and giving me the opportunity to go, right, well, we're going to give you an opportunity. We're going to give you a shot at this and feel safe enough to be able to do that. Something that I quite liked about him, he was quite direct in his approach, so you kind of knew where you were, and that works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for other people, but I knew from him I could go to him and say, look, I messed this up, again, psychological safety, or he would say, right, we need to work on X, Y, and Z, and I kind of quite like that from him. And I think it's vitally important as well from sort of my point of view. It's about giving people opportunities now. I was given an opportunity, and it's about giving that back to people that are coming through and people that want to become leaders. There's going to be people that don't have that experience but want to give it a good shot. We'll give them an opportunity and let them do it.
And people that would be great that perhaps don't have the confidence or self-belief. You mentioned that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think not having that really can prevent people from ever exploring it as an opportunity as well, can't it? So I think that's another option.
We've got to get, people have got to give people chances, and I think we can get kind of caught up in where you've got to have X qualification, or you've got to have gone to, Y university, or you've got to have X amount of years experience. To me, if somebody is, like in my situation, I didn't have senior leadership experience. He gave me that opportunity, and actually we need to start doing that for other people and going, well, do you know what? You haven't got a degree, but you're absolutely willing, hungry, and able. Give that person a chance.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think we absolutely need to get a bit better at that, and I think we're starting to see some of that come through. But yeah, I think rigid ways of working in sort of degrees and that kind of thing, it's, some jobs absolutely need that sort of stuff, but just give people a chance.
Absolutely. I don't have a degree myself, but I don't think it makes much of a difference. And I think some people go through personal situations that mean that at that point in their life, they may not be able to. They may have to go and get a job to support themselves because anything can happen, a marriage breakdown or whatever, and it is what it is, isn't it? But yeah, I think, like you say, it's not being too rigid on those specifics, but giving people that opportunity to have that progression that they are more than deserving of a lot of the time.
Absolutely. What are they bringing to the table? Are they hungry? What have they been doing? Talk to them about that kind of stuff. Not, what did you do 10 years ago? Because okay, great, you did that 10 years ago, but what have you been doing? What have you been involved in? That's far more interesting to me as, a leader. Is there hunger and passion there? Absolutely, give them a chance.
Yeah, and I suppose lastly, so what inspires you, Nic, and why?
Yeah, so this was a tricky one. This was a tricky question. I think for me, again, we've spoken a lot about this, but I think, particularly women in leadership roles, I mentioned it a bit at the beginning when we were talking, but again, seeing is believing. I think even now, I look at myself in a senior leadership position, it's like, well, actually, you know, in our industry, I think there's 1 or 2 female CEOs.
Can think of it depends how widespread you're going, but
okay,
I can think
so
of 3 or 4, but
we're
yeah.
under 5. We're under 5, and
Mm.
that's terrible. You know, and I think seeing those, you know, like we say, 4 or 5 women that are in those particular roles, it gives you something to go, actually we can do this, and we can improve this, and we can get more women on boards or in, you know, in senior leadership positions. So I think seeing that is vitally important for me, and something that pushes me on, and certainly pushed me on at the beginning of my career. I think one of the other things I thought about is, you know, particularly younger people. I kind of get inspired by young people because they just take a stand. You know, they're like, if we believe in something, we're taking a stand on it. So, you know, that could be climate change and all the kind of youth climate protests that we've seen. You know, it could be, you know, young people setting up, you know, diversity and inclusion advisory groups in their school to make their schools, you know, more diverse and inclusive sort of environments. And I think watching them, you can kind of see the change that's going to come. You know, they don't care. They're going to stand up. What they believe is right, they're going to stand up, and they're absolutely going to make a case for it. And I think that's really, really positive and inspiring to look at. And I think be interested to see where we are in sort of 20 years when those people start to come through, and what that looks like, particularly in organisations as they start to go to work and stuff.
Absolutely. There's so many more sort of serial entrepreneurs, aren't there, that are very young, and people setting up not-for-profits and charities for mental health, and it's just amazing what people are achieving at really, really young ages.
It's bonkers. It makes you
Yeah.
feel a bit bad, doesn't it? You're like, crikey, I
Yeah.
really need to step it up a gear.
Absolutely. If they're capable of that now, what am I capable of? So
It's just, again, they're just not scared to try, are they? And that's
no.
super cool and super exciting. And I think we've got a lot to learn from that particular group of people. And I think, yeah, the more we can listen to them, I think we'll be in a good place. And I guess finally, just everybody working in the diversity and inclusion space, it's, you know, big gap to fill. There's a lot to do, but, you know, as I kind of start to dig into this more and more, it's, yeah, just hugely inspiring seeing all the different people out there that are trying to make that change. And it's, you know, good to be part of it. But if everybody could get on board, there's so much opportunity to make our organisations better, make the world we live in better. You know, there's no bad point to it. So yeah, I think a couple of bits there, but I think, yeah, those bits certainly inspire me and kind of keep me going.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? When it's something that you're ever so passionate about, personally and professionally, like you mentioned about sports and things for yourself as well, but it you can just see the opportunity, can't you, for the change, and being part of that is just awesome. So, but yeah, I really, really appreciate your time and input on that as well, Nic. So thank you ever so much. It's good to learn a lot more about you, even though we've had many conversations beforehand. So
Thanks for having us, Holly.
no worries, really appreciate it.